Hello everyone and welcome to the Doctor Show. I'm Dr. Zahra and today we're gonna talk about more of mental health. I always tell you before I begin this episode, I always tell you that mental health is really important. Actually, I always say that mental health is way more important than physical health, because if you have anything physical like an infection or even a tumor, you can easily solve it and you're mentally actually okay. But if you have a mental disease, your whole body would not work. What would you do with a healthy body if your mind is not healthy? So I'm going to give you some advices before we start about talking about today's episode, that if you feel anything unease with your mental health, like depression, anxiety, anything worrying you, anything stressing you, you need to go to the doctor immediately and get treated. You need to be more relaxed. You need to have other things to do to relax your mind, like listening to music, doing some sports, doing yoga, whatever relaxes you. Even if you just take a shower, make sure to feel better about yourself. But today we're going to talk about something much more complicated, a disease that much more complicated, which is autism, or the whole autism spectrum diseases, which is an ASD. It's called ASD. Autism is something very complicated, and we are still not sure why does it happen, and we're still not sure what exactly happens to the brain. Autistic people, which could happen from early age, is they have a lot of problems with communicating with the outer world. They have a lot of problem with understanding the communication between the people. They have a lot of problem with expressing themselves, to show themselves. They have a lot of problem to actually express their emotions. How do they do that? When a mother notices a child is a bit withdrawn and he cannot show emotions and cannot show anything, please make sure to take him to a doctor and make sure to actually diagnose very early, because they have some trouble communicating with the other world. They have some trouble understanding you. If they see you sad, they might not even realize that this is sadness or happiness and everything else. But good news is it usually does not actually develop it with their brain, with their walking, talking, anything. Usually they have no issues when it comes to that. On the contrary, sometimes they have what people call super brain, which is they could be very good in art, in music, in memory, or problem solving or math. So sometimes they actually have really high mental development and high brain development. They have like super brain. So that's actually good. So you need to discover their good point. You need to discover their strong point and deal with them accordingly. You should know that unfortunately autism is a lifelong disease. Autism is actually a lifelong condition that could not be treated or cured. But before we talk about the treatment or the cure, let's ask, how do we diagnose? If I have an autistic child, how do I know that this is autism? How do I know and feel that my child has some problems? So when the child is very young, we might feel that they actually are withdrawn from people. They have their own world. They don't come and play with other people. They have their own little bubble that they stay inside. And you might notice they have a repetitive action. Like what? Like they have a repetitive thing they do all the time, a repetitive word they say, a song they do, something they do quite often all the time, and they just repeat it. What else? They actually like a certain thing, a certain activity and nothing else. They have high sensitivity when it comes to light, to noise, to smell. They might actually get a little bit irritated too fast. They cannot show you and communicate with you. They cannot express their emotions. They cannot talk well. And even when they talk, you might notice they might talk in a sing-song or flat or a very robotic voice. So they will not have like they not show emotion even with their voice. What else can happen? They not look or listen. Their lack of listening to you. If you tell them, point at something, tell them, hey, look at that, they might not even look at it. They might not even care to look at it. They might not even understand you're talking to them. And not wanting to be held or cuddled. They have a lot of problems with physical intimacy. They have a lot of problem to show emotions when it comes to that. And they have a lot of problem with understanding the speech or understanding the word. All of these things, you might notice them when they're really even starting 3 years old. So you should know that it actually is very important to diagnose it very early to be able to deal with it. I'm not saying there's a cure with it, but there are a lot of treatments to deal with it, to be able to deal with it. Some children, a little bit, very, very, very rare thing to happen to them, that they might have seizures, which should be dealt with immediately by having anti-seizure drug, by having a treatment for it, especially for it. But what if I actually have an autistic child? What should I do? First of all, before anything, you should accept your child as who he is. You should accept that this is your child, this is his personality, and you accept him. You don't see it as a problem, you don't see it as quite a disease, you don't see it as something might actually harm your child. No, your child is perfectly fine. His health, physical health is perfectly healthy. It's not like Down syndrome when they actually have physical health as well. They could have heart problems, they could have stomach problems, they could have mental problems. But no, autism, they don't have all these problems. Only if they have a little bit of seizure sometimes. So you have to accept your child, you have to love your child for who he is, and not to try to change the child. Before we talk about how to deal with the child and how to treat the child, let's talk about why does it happen? If I have an autistic child, what did I do wrong to make an autistic child? First of all, the actual reason is unknown. The actual cause is unknown. We still don't know. It's basically just a change in the chemistry of the brain, or the electricity of the brain, a part of understanding and speaking and showing emotions in the brain actually has a little bit of problem that we don't know how does it happen. But some things we might know, that autism runs in families. If you have an autistic person in your family, he might pass it on to his children or grandchildren. So that we know of, that actual researches shows that usually the autism runs in families. It's not a definite fact, but usually it does run in families. What other things? Pregnant ladies, and again, pregnant ladies. It's very, very, very important not to take any drugs that you're not allowed to take, like recreational drugs, like anti-epileptic drugs. If a lady has epilepsy, if she's actually diagnosed with epilepsy, she cannot have her anti-epileptic drugs. She should go to the doctor and know what drugs can she actually take. What else? Smoking while you're pregnant. It's very, very, very dangerous, and it might have effect on the child. Drinking alcohol while you're pregnant might have a lot of bad effects on the child, and one of them is autism. All these things, you should actually be very, very careful to get pregnant while having them, because they're very, 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 very preventable, honestly. What other things that you should be careful to do while you're pregnant is to be a diabetic person and get pregnant. You should do a lot of tests. You might have more chances to have an autistic child than a non-diabetic person. Or if you are having an overweight and very, very obese people, when they get pregnant, there is a slight relation between it and between autism. But the most important question is, does vaccination cause autism? That's why a lot of people, it's a common mistake that people do. They don't give vaccination to their children because they think it causes autism. Actually, that's not true at all. There is not one research that proves there is any relation with both of them. But why do people think that? People usually discover or diagnose autism at the same age when they take vaccinations. That's literally the whole connection between them. So people usually, one person said, oh, I took the vaccination the other day, now I'm diagnosing with autism. It could be the problem, it could be the reason. Actually, no, it's not the reason at all. There's no relation between them. There is no relation between them at all. So please do not stop vaccination of your children, because vaccination is one of the most important things ever for a child. Make sure you stay up to date with the schedule. Make sure to take the vaccination, because they prevent a lot of life-threatening diseases that could actually paralyze the child, or life threat, or viruses and bacteria that actually could be very dangerous for your child, and they're very, very preventable. Now, how do I deal with my autistic child? As I said before, accept them as who they are. Accept that this is the condition and that's it. You don't have to do anything about it. Do we have a cure? No. Unfortunately, we don't have a cure so far, but we do have symptomatic treatments. If he has seizures, we can give him anti-seizures. If he's feeling depression or anxiety or insomnia, we can go to psychiatrists and deal with that. And there are, in every country, there are autism clinics and autism teams and autism centers. Even here, we do have an autism team to treat, to be able to deal with them, to actually see their needs and try to communicate better. We can actually make their communication better. We can teach them a little bit. We can deal with them. They're actually human beings just like you and I. They have their own needs. They have their own methods to deal with them. Every single person has a method to deal with them. So you should know how to deal with your children. Please make sure to go to a doctor immediately if you've noticed anything, like I said, from the symptoms that I said about earlier this episode. Make sure to go to the doctor. They will deal with them perfectly. You have to know, read a book or two about how to deal with autism, and things should be easy. Please, please, please make sure to accept them as who they are and not see it as a big problem, because they're perfectly fine. Thank you for watching this episode, and always remember, mental health is more important than any physical health. I'll see you next Tuesday. Have a good day.